What have your people done? Your AI people with this fucking ChatGPT shit. This scares the fuck out of me. It's your people.
What do you mean?
Your AI people. Your wacky coders. What have you done?
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Fascinating.
Language models, I don't know if you know what those are, but that's the general systems that underlie ChatGPT and GPT. They've been progressing over the past maybe 4 years aggressively. There's been a lot of development. GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT 3.5. And ChatGPT, there's a lot of interesting technical stuff that maybe we don't want to get into.
Sure, let's get into it.
Well,
I'm fascinated by it.
So ChatGPT is based on, fundamentally, on a 175 billion parameter neural network that is GPT-3. And the rest is what data is it trained on and how is it trained. So you already have like a brain, a giant neural network, and it's just trained in different ways. So GPT-3 came out about 2 years ago, and it was like impressive but dumb in a lot of ways. It was like you would expect as a human being for it to generate certain kinds of text, and it was like saying kind of dumb things that were off. And you're like, all right, this is really impressive, but it's not quite there. You can tell it's not intelligent. And what they did with GPT 3.5 is they started adding more and different kinds of data sets there. One of them, probably the smartest neural network currently, is Codex, which is fine-tuned for programming. Like it was trained on code, on programming code. And when you train it on programming code, which ChatGPT is also, you're teaching it something like reasoning, because it's no longer information and knowledge from the internet. It's also reasoning. You can like logic. Even though you're looking at code, programming code is, you're looking at me like, what the fuck is he talking about?
No, that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at you like, oh my God.
But reasoning is in order to be able to stitch together sentences that make sense, you not only need to know the facts that underlie those sentences, you also have to be able to reason.
Yeah.
And we take it for granted as human beings that we can do some common sense reasoning. Like this war started at this date and ended at this date, therefore it means that like the start and the end has a meaning. There's a temporal consistency. There's a cause and effect. All of those things are inside programming code. By the way, a lot of stuff I'm saying we still don't understand. We're like intuiting why this works so well.
Really?
But these are the intuitions. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's not clear. So so GPT 3.5, which ChatGPT is likely based on, there's no paper yet, so we don't know exactly the details, but it was just trained on code and more data that's able to give it some reasoning. Then, this is really important, it was fine-tuned in a supervised way by human labeling. Small data set, but human labeling of here's what we would like this network to generate. Here's the stuff that makes sense. Here's the kind of dialogue that makes sense. Here's the kind of answers to questions that make sense. It's basically pointing this giant Titanic of a neural network into the right direction that aligns with the way human beings think and talk. So it's not just using the giant wisdom of Wikipedia and just, I can talk about what data sets it's trained on, but just basically the internet. It was pointed in the wrong direction. So this supervised labeling allows it to point in the right direction to when it says shit, you're like, holy shit, that's pretty smart. So that's the alignment. And then they did something really interesting is using reinforcement learning based on labeling data from humans. That's quite a large data set. The task is the following. You have this smart GPT 3.5 thing, generate a bunch of text, and humans label which one seems the best. So ranking. Like you ask it a question. For example, you could do generate a joke in the style of Joe Rogan, right? And you have a label. They have 5 options, and you have a label. Does it mention dick and pussy? No, I don't know. I don't know how exactly, but so you get it to rank. The human labeler is just sitting there. There's a very large number of them. They're working full time. They're labeling the ranking of the outputs of this model, and that kind of ranking, used together with a technique called reinforcement learning, is able to get this thing to generate very impressive to humans output. So it's not actually, there's not a significant breakthrough in how much knowledge was learned. That was already in GPT-3, and there was much more impressive models already trained. So it's on the way. not just OpenAI. But this kind of fine tuning, it's called, by human labelers plus reinforcement learning, you start to get like where students don't have to write essays anymore in high school.
Yeah.
Where you can style transfer, like I said, do a Louis C.K. joke in the style of Joe Rogan, or Joe Rogan joke in the style of Louis C.K., and it does an incredible job at those kinds of style transfers. It can more accurately query things about the different historical events, all that kind of stuff.
Holy shit, man. The idea that you don't exactly know why it works the way it works, that's too close to human. That's too close to human thinking.